Hey everyone, and welcome back to Cal Talks. I am Marcelo Wallau, Forage Extension Specialist with the University of Florida and an agricultural producer myself. On this podcast, we explore the many facets of agricultural production systems to discuss the technical aspects and decision-making processes that shape the competitiveness and long-term sustainability of our farms and ranches. Join me in these conversations where I explore the minds of different professionals to bring multiple perspectives to the challenges and opportunities facing modern agriculture.
Hey there, it's Olivia Mall. I'm the producer for Cow Talks. As part of the Forage Extension team, our number one goal is to make sure our listeners are learning from and applying the knowledge we bring on this podcast. We want to hear more about how you are using this information and get your feedback on current and future topics. That's why we have created a quick survey to hear from you and make this podcast even more relevant to your needs. The link is in the description. Please take 2 minutes to leave us your feedback. Thanks in advance and enjoy part 2 of this episode.
So we covered some of the process and why we need to do those multiple surveys and the purpose of each one. As you said, Krista, different purpose. Another thing I want to explore with you is that we are not alone in this world of disaster because we have the cooperative extension system. So what is the role of the Extension Disaster Education Network in supporting us here, but also in sharing the unfortunate wealth of experience we have in terms of disasters?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So the network is nationwide, and obviously we are associated with the cooperative extension system, and that includes cooperative extension and land-grant universities, 1862, obviously the 1890s, and some of our HBCU sister institutions, including FAMU here within the state of Florida, and then also our 1994 universities as well. So land-grant universities basically all over the country. And typically there's usually one person. At Florida, we have myself as kind of the point of contact, and then we have Kimberly Davis, who's at Florida A&M University. And then we have a Sea Grant representative as well, because we do have Sea Grant here on the University of Florida campus. So you can have more than a couple of different points of contacts. Those are typically your folks that are actually the voters that are part of the network. You can have as many delegates as you want within the land-grant university, within that particular cooperative extension system, within that state as well. So you're talking about over 500 people basically throughout the nation that are doing in some kind of regard something working with disaster basically. Number one, it's a network, and I say all the time the strength is in the network, and it truly is. And it's like you said, like us sharing our experiences, sharing our resources. One of my favorite stories to tell is when we were hit by Hurricane Irma. We hadn't had a major hurricane since like 2004, 2005. Texas had just been hit by Hurricane Harvey, where they had a great deal of flooding. We had a great deal of flooding with Hurricane Irma. Called Texas A&M, said, y'all have some recent resources that y'all are using? Yep, absolutely. We took those resources, we rebranded them. We, of course, thanked them, obviously, on there. But we were able to get it out very quickly without having to, sit down. We're in the middle of kind of response and early recovery. So it was something we were able to use our folks on and being able to help get that information out as quickly as possible. It absolutely is a true network support system, not only for resources, but just understanding different types of disasters and different types of impacts on different states. Obviously, how we're impacted is going to be different than how Washington State is, obviously, as well. But understanding the role of extension in each of those is going to be different as well.
Yeah, and there is another role of extension that I think is hidden from a lot of people. They don't realize, but a lot of our county extension agents are working in those emergency operation centers. So they not only work in the front with the farmers, helping set up, educating and all that, but also through their county work in mitigating some of that impact of disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. We have folks throughout the state that are, a lot of times they're Emergency Support Function 17, which is animals and agriculture here within the state of Florida. So a lot of them are the representative for their particular county. And so they're 12-hour shifts in the Emergency Operations Center. A lot of folks work for the public information, the PIO folks within their county. So they help out in that area, and also working in the EOC as well. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see one county regarding the role of extension in disasters. Everybody's a little bit different, but there's definitely a wide range of folks that are absolutely doing 12-hour shifts, but then also maybe folks that aren't necessarily involved in actual response, but they're working in recovery efforts afterwards as well.
Fantastic. I mean, so much in this world of disasters. Probably a little bit of a polemic topic. that people don't like to talk about the changing climate that we are facing. But if you look into the recent years, we have an increased not only frequency but also intensity of those extreme events. We don't talk about global warming anymore. We had record cold weather, we have record droughts, we have record floods now. In a big picture, thinking about the state of Florida and the course we're heading, how do you feel our preparedness in general, and specifically related to the agricultural sector? How are we heading to hedge against those more frequent and more intense disasters?
I think it's a tough question. It's a tough question. Is definitely something that we think about a lot, actually, especially having been impacted by some major hurricanes since 2017, basically. Major hurricanes year after year, and we're talking, Category 3, Category 4 level hurricanes, and that were hit several places the same time every year, basically. But then also kind of what we talked about earlier about that multiple hits. So obviously we've had a freeze and we've had a drought, and now we possibly are going into hurricane season. But I think it's also important to take into consideration some of these cascading events that happen after these types of events. And some of like what Krista was just talking about, like we're not real sure yet until harvest season comes. So what's the next little disaster going to be from the freeze disaster? So, but I think looking at those cascading events that happen from these multiple hits, like what is going to build up after year of being hit by different types of natural disasters. I mean, even throw COVID in there. I mean, throw COVID in there as well.
It is a major, and now,
it is.
And now commodity prices are low. We're losing money in many of the agricultural commodities. Input prices were already super high.
Yeah. Well, trade relationships that are changing all the time. So I often talk about the sheer number of levers that you could pull at any one moment that would affect agriculture. And I think the biggest thing that we could do is really help everybody understand what all of those levers are, how they can move, and then understand that they may be moving all at the same time. And what are we going to do about it if they do? So you mentioned climate change. I think, we've seen a lot of hurricanes over the last few seasons, but when you think about climate change, it's really this like much longer term, like decadal process. And when I speak to or hear the state climatologists speak and these others, the science isn't decided on, exactly how much, more intense or not more intense they're going to be, or is it really going to affect the number of storms? But the science seems to be pretty decided on the fact that, at least here in Florida, they are going to be wetter, potentially slower moving storms, like we saw with something like Hurricane Ian or Hurricane Irma that brought a lot of water and a lot of flooding with it. So I think paying attention to, how things are changing and incorporating that knowledge into decision making on a daily level. When I first got here in 2016, we hadn't had a hurricane in a very long time. And when I would attend things like a new farmer school or something related to trying to put production budgets together, there was no talk of, well, every 5 years you might get hit by a hurricane, so you better figure that in, right? And now I'm starting to hear them, factor that in. So I think that when we do any kind of education as extension agents, we need to factor this risk management piece in and know there may be a freeze, there may be a hurricane, there may be these changing fertilizer prices because of global trade relationships that are changing, and just keeping all of that in mind. And like you're saying, 1 week you decide we need to fertilize because of the prices, but there's no rain. We can't do it very successfully right now. So what do you do? So I think it's just figuring all of that out, and we're going to have to do it together.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about, preparing for recovery. Like we talk a lot about mitigation and preparedness in our state because obviously we're hit by a lot of tropical systems. But how do you prepare for recovery when you're still dealing with a freeze or drought? When you're just still coming off of something, or when you're been hit several times in the past 3 years from a hurricane and you're still trying to recover from that. What happens when you get hit again? Yes, you're going to prepare and mitigate as much as you can, but what is recovery going to look like? And so, like Krista said, understanding that risk and being ready for it as well. And I think it's just a different way of thinking a little bit. And it's more of a longer term way of thinking as well. So I think preparedness and mitigation programs and messages and research as well is looking a lot at how can we support folks around this state and understanding how best to mitigate some of this.
Yeah, I think one more really important one is, especially in the state of Florida, because we're specialty crop state and we do so many things, a lot of the risk management tools that farmers have available to them right now are maybe not designed for specialty crops, or maybe even if they were designed for a situation that producers were facing maybe decades ago, which is not the same as they were facing right now. So kind of often people say, well, there are tools to help with risk management for farmers, but not every farm is eligible. Not every farm finds it beneficial to participate in them. And that it might be a conversation about how do we change those risk management tools that are available to farmers, not just from an educational perspective on, how should they prepare their farm for hurricane season, but how do we redo farm, crop insurance to be relevant to the situation that farmers are facing right now?
Wow. I have so many questions because this is actually one of the areas that I work and I like a lot is, okay, well, first of all, we think about farming, what we're going to do this year. We farmers, and I put myself there, is how the crop is going to be this year. Farming is not a short-term business. Farming is a long-term business. We need to think about long-term.
Yeah.
We need to plan long-term. We need to think about every 5 years to have a completely fail on the crop. But then is using those tools, adding those mechanisms that can help us mitigate. One of my biggest one is diversity, like diversify the crop, the base. We're very specialized, especially on the major crops, corn, cotton, peanut. We're very specialized. Recently, I've been talking to a lot of farmers and agencies to understand their perspectives in adoption of integrated systems that could help mitigate some of those issues, market, also climate, not only climate, but market, commodity prices, everything. And guess what? Insurance came up, cost share came up, especially because a lot of the cost share are not really tailored to some of the needs we have here. Some of those other things that are actually not within the farm gate, we're not used to think about outside of the farm gate. But at the end of the day, that outside of the farm gate really affects the whole production system.
Yeah. And I think you're talking about it from the individual's perspective, but if we really want to think about, food security as a national security issue, then we need to think about the entire system and risk management for the agriculture system at a national level.
Exactly.
And how are we going to handle risk mitigation?
Yes.
And food security. I mean, it's, absolutely. And it's a systems way of thinking. Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially now that we are anticipating this impact with the war in Iran to have a huge impact in food production, in cost of the products. And it's not going to be something that is going to be quick. It's going to linger for, according to all the channels that I've been seeing and trying to educate myself on those themes, but because they impact directly agriculture. Sometimes it's happening all the way across the world, but we're in a globalized world.
Right.
It's going to affect us.
Yeah.
Right.
This has been fantastic. Was probably one of the best interviews that I've done so far, at least recently. I really enjoyed talking about those big pictures because I think as an extension specialist, I need to think about the system, not only the pasture, not only the cattle, but the whole system we're working. To wrap up here, Krista, main message you want to leave to our listeners?
I think because we're the ones that do the assessment, I think the main message is participate in the assessment. Let us know what happened after this freeze event, not only so that we understand this particular event, but so that we can use that information and everything that I learned about, how different crops and different commodities were affected in the conversations that I'm having with the state, the federal related to response.
So pretty much don't keep those conversations to yourself. Put it out there, make your voice be heard. Angie, we have a lot of resources, not only here, elsewhere. We have a big network. What's your take on all of this and how can you help our state?
You hear prepare in our state because we're obviously impacted by a lot of tropical systems. But I would encourage folks to think beyond preparation and think about recovery and what could it look like. But then also, like you said, we have a lot of great resources, not only at University of Florida, but we have a lot of great state resources. There's a lot of great federal resources that are also available that we work really closely with our state and federal partners also, and look at those as well and understanding what the impact could be and what the risk could be and what are the things that we could possibly do now to lessen those impacts or help out to build resilience, not only personally, but also within the communities as well.
Well, It's all integrated and it's about our food system. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And for those listeners that enjoy this podcast, please make sure to like and also follow us on our social media. We'd like to hear from you. Leave your comments in our social media or reach out to us through forages@ifas.ufl.edu. See you in the next Cal Talks podcast. Thank you. This podcast was brought to you by the University of Florida Forage Team with technical support from the UF CALS Faculty Instructional Resource and Support Team. This episode was produced by Marcelo Wallau, Olivia Mowley, and Ashley Kalabrowski. I hope you have enjoyed this conversation. And if you have any feedback, please leave us a comment in our social media or send us an email to forages@ifas.ufl.edu. Until the next one,